Right before we jump into this real-world review of the Canon 1DX Mark II, if you haven't signed up for the Phronos Photo email list, just look for this orange box over on the website, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I will send you a free guide to capturing motion in low-light situations. Jared Polin, PhronosPhoto.com here at Princeton University to do a real-world review of this Canon 1DX Mark II. So we're out here shooting a track and field event, and the idea for the real-world review is to get some amazing track and field photos, and now it's time to go test out the 1DX Mark II down on the field. This is the first time I'm going to be shooting with the Canon 1DX Mark II. Now, when I set it up last night, it was super simple and easy to get through the menu systems. Even though I'm a Nikon shooter primarily, I picked it up right off the bat, went right through the menus, and found everything where I needed it to be to set it up so we can come out here and shoot. And my goals with being out here is to capture the well-rounded photo story, the wide shots, the medium shots, the detailed shots. That's what I am always after. But I want to see how does the autofocus fare. The 14 frames a second tracking the subjects running towards me. How is that going to handle? So the only way to really determine this is to go out there and start shooting. So let's go and shoot. Here's one thing that jumped out at me pretty quickly. I was shooting in vertical of the discus, and I noticed that the viewfinder was protruding into my eyeball socket. It didn't feel good, so it's something I have to get used to, because on the Nikon side, you have a round eye hole. This time, you don't have that, and it just seems like the viewfinder protrudes a little too far. Here are your general specs. We have a $6,000 camera, which comes in $500 less than the Nikon D5. We also have 20.2 megapixel CMOS sensor with the ISO that goes from 100 to 51,200, and it goes all the way up to 400,000 in the higher modes, but this camera is one stop better than its predecessor. You also have dual Digic 6 Plus processors. Don't get afraid with the gunshot. Starting pistol, I guess. God, that scares the crap out of you. So this camera feels fantastic in the hands. Now, I've always found that the Canons have more of a bricky feel to it, but it is a solid brick feel. Now, there's not much that has changed from the 1DX original to the 1DX Mark II, other than the grip feels a little better, and they've updated the joystick. So joysticks are important when you're shooting vertical or just moving around those focusing points, but so far, it feels great in the hands. So this camera is dust and weather sealed, and it better be for a $6,000 body. This is the type of camera that you can take anywhere in the world and shoot just about anything. In terms of how it compares to the Nikon D5, this camera is slightly heavier than the Nikon D5, but it also doesn't have backlit buttons. The Nikon has had backlit buttons since the D4, and even the new $2,000 D500 has backlit buttons. I wish this 1DX Mark II had the same backlit buttons. So it's always hard to shoot sports with just one body. I would love to just leave the 400 2.8 on one and then switch between a wider angle with the other. So being that I only had one body, I had to switch around and fumble with some of the lenses in order to get the right lens on for the shots that I needed. So when I was shooting the Javelin, I had on there the 400 2.8, which is an absolutely incredible lens. But I also wanted to try and tell a better photo story, so I switched over to the 70-200, but I realized I loved using the 400 because it compressed the background and separated the subject from whatever is in the background, causing there to be less distractions. I got some really awesome Javelin photos, especially right before the girls were throwing the Javelin, just some awesome portraits that I absolutely love. So this camera has a 3.2-inch LCD touchscreen, which I was really looking forward to use. But one of the major things that I was looking forward to isn't there. You can't swipe through your images. You can't pinch to zoom through your still images. You can only use the touchscreen when it comes to doing autofocus for video. Now that part is amazing when you're in video and you can touch where you want it to focus and it smoothly moves. That's awesome. But as a still shooter, I want to be able to pinch and zoom and swipe through the images quickly, which I cannot do here. I have to go through it the old-fashioned way. So I made sure to bring out a loupe today to see the back of the screen because it's very hard to see in this bright sunlight. Now it is a great screen on the back of this. Like I said, I can't touch to zoom, which I wish I could do, but being able to go like this with this, the loupe really looks great. This camera's fantastic so far, really enjoying it.
Now I'm just waiting for them to enter the frame. I think I got my lens in that one. I thought I was gonna get kicked.
So for some of the shots, I wanted to get a super low angle and shoot ultra wide. Now I brought out the 8-15 fisheye, which is a lens I've never used before. At 8, you get this circular effect, which I'm not a huge fan of, but look how close you have to get to the subjects in order to get that shot. But when you zoom out to 15, you get a 15mm fisheye that looks really good when you get on that low angle and shoot up as the runners are going by you. So So how is the video in this camera? Well, you're watching video that we shot right now with the 1DX Mark II. Now, we shot it in 4K, but we're delivering it in 1080 so we can cut to something else in case I mess up. Now, the 4K footage that you get is at 60 frames a second and it's full cinematic DCI, which is absolutely incredible. You can shoot at 1080 at 120 frames a second, which is awesome. They also added a headphone jack if you need to monitor audio. That's great to have. And unlike a lot of other cameras, if you go clean out through the HDMI, it will not give you the 4K. It's only limited to 1080. That's something that I hope they change in future models or with a firmware update. And finally, the bit rates are astronomical. They're all over the place. You can see how amazing the bit rate is from this camera. I cut off a little bit of the head doing the horizontal, so I'm gonna try and go vertical for this heat so I can get the head, all in there. We'll see how it looks. This camera shoots at 14 frames a second, which is absolutely insane. You find it hard to be able to shoot just one frame. You sometimes just snap off 2 or 3 just by hitting the button, but I have to say that the 14 frames are a luxury to have. They are amazing, they are great, and beyond that, if you want to shoot 16, you can do that with the mirror locked up. I personally will stick with the 14 for the action that I'm shooting, but the 14 frames a second are absolutely incredible. Speaking of how many frames a second, you get 5 frames a second in the so-called silent mode. Is it silent? Well, it's not completely silent, but I will say that this camera is a hell of a lot quieter in silent mode than any of the Nikons ever were. I gotta find the exact center of the lane so that everything's straight. Let's talk about memory card slots. You have 2 different card slots in this camera, not one card to go into both slots. So you have a CFast 2.0, which are super fast cards that we use, and you also have the older compact flash card slot. In my opinion, the Nikon D5 has 2 XQD slots. If Canon was to get this right, they should have put in 2 of the same exact cards, and it should have just been 2 CFast cards. We have 61 autofocus points, of which 41 of them are cross-type sensors. Now, is this too many or is it too little, being that the Nikon has 153? Honestly, from shooting, I didn't notice much of a difference. They're where I need them to be, so they were perfectly fine. So I don't think there really need to be more, but what the long glass shooters are gonna be happy with is when you're using teleconverters, you can shoot at f8 and all autofocus points are now selectable. And also in AI servo, in continuous focus, you will have the red light on inside the whole time. The last 1DX didn't let you do that, and that is something I love having on at all times. tarp got in my way. Tarps never get in my way. God! Oh, jeez. Every time. You now have an LPE19 battery that has a red line, so you know that it goes into this camera. The older 1DX Mark I, you can take those batteries and use it in this camera. The only difference is you're only gonna get 12 frames a second. So my suggestion is do not be cheap. Buy extra batteries, buy extra LPE19s, so you have the maximum 14 frames a second that you need. Yeah, I want to compress the background even more. I'm going to have to go all the way back with the 4, but I'm going to do that. So based off of some of the sample shots out here where I had subjects running right at me, the autofocus seemed to be tack sharp and right on for just about every shot. The hardest thing for cameras to do is to track subjects coming right at you, and I think it did an awesome job, especially at 14 frames a second. So a lot of people want to know is how many photos in a row can you take? Well, in full RAW, you can get 170 to the CFast card, and you can get 73 to the compact flash. Now I have both of those cards in the camera right now and have not encountered any problem shooting off bursts of 30 or 40 in a row, just testing runners running at me, so I don't think that's something you need to worry about. So you know how I said I like taking tight photos? I thought it would be great to try to get some of those wider angle ones, but what I found when I was shooting a little wider angle is that there may be other distractions that I didn't want in the photos, but other than that, it seemed a little bit more amateurish. It takes a lot more work to get an awesome wide angle shot out here, and I may spend a little bit more time trying to capture some of those wide angles. This camera has GPS built in, but it does not have Wi-Fi. If you want to add Wi-Fi, you have to add an extra adapter, which is going to cost you more money. Just keep that in mind when you're picking up this camera. We have a first in a full-frame DSLR from Canon. We have the dual pixel AF, which is absolutely incredible. You get that cinematic effect when you go ahead and touch the screen where you want the focus. It's gonna pull it smoothly, but also the dual pixel AF is almost like continuous autofocus in a camcorder. It works so well. Just touch the camera where you want it or just let it follow a face. It is really awesome. I love dual pixel AF. So everything looks pretty great on the back of the camera, but that's just looking at a 3.2-inch screen. The real way to determine if this camera works very well and if the photos are keepers is to take them back into the loft, look at the final RAW files, and then make some prints to determine if this is a winning camera. Here we are back in the loft to take a look at the final images from the Canon 1DX Mark II. But before we do that, I want to let you know that we are using the 1DX Mark II in 4K to go ahead and record this video, but we're going to deliver it in 1080 like the rest of the review, but we shoot it in 4K so that we can do a crop in case I want to stop or we want to get a different angle. But I also want to remind you that you can download all the full-res exported JPEGs as well as sample DNG files over on the website. But let's take a look at the images right now and see what we have. So overall, I was really pleased with how the camera handled when we were out there shooting. So what I want to do right now is go in here and show you some of the keeper images. This one is at 1/4000th of a second at 250 ISO. I'm going to turn over here for 1 second and say we did not push the ISO an extreme amount. The reason is we were shooting in a real world situation that didn't call for us to push the ISO to an over the top amount. Now in the future, if I do get to keep the camera a little longer and I shoot some low light situations, I will be sure to pass those images along, but if I had to guess, the camera's going to handle pretty well in most low light situations. So this is one of those images that is super tack sharp with the 400mm 2.8 shooting at 3.2, but as I move forward, let's just go to another image, and this is where it's subtly out. Now this isn't bad on the camera. This is going to happen whether you use Nikon or whether you use Canon's top of the line. It's going to happen where there's some subtleties here where you'll be just slightly out. But then we move on to another image and we take a look and you can see how tight and sharp that is as well. What you have to remember is when you use a 400 2.8, even at 3.2, your depth of field is so shallow. So the focus has to really work hard to get to where it needs to be. And most of the time it hits pretty well. Some of the times you get some of those just slightly out, but that's something that I've noticed on both systems, so that's not really a knock on the camera, but when it does hit, it hits really well. One of my favorite images from this event was this shot right here. I also made a print of this because printing is what you really need to do in order to see how well the file actually looks. Because again, it's one thing to take a look at the screen at 1:1, but it's another thing to print out a 17:22 with our Canon Pro 1000 and see how the results look. And these prints are looking incredible. The colors, the vibrancy, the sharpness look great. But this shot just looks so epically epic. I don't like using the word epic. Personally, it looks tremendous. The sharpness is right there on the eye. The tones are really nice. Let me go into the develop module here and show you where it started. And this is where it came right out of the camera. I'm very happy with the pictures right out of the camera. They seem to be more punchy than what I'm used to on the Nikon side, but what I will say is when you're shooting at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a bright, vibrant day and the sun is just right there behind you, you're going to get really contrasty shots without having to do very much, but I'm really happy with how these files have cleaned up so far. So that's a really cool shot that I love a lot. Here's just another one, wanted to go through, really nice, got my focus where I wanted. The focus points worked very well. I was basically in the 5-point focus mode in continuous servo, and it did a great job tracking the subjects. just another, you get these shots of people. You can see how narrow the depth of field is. Just look right down here. You can see from this blue spot to just where her hand is as narrow of a field as you have to actually get your focus. I tracked these subjects all the way down the track, and it tracked really well. Even when an official walked past me, it did not lose track of the subjects that are running down the track. Now, what I will say is that Canon gives you so many different options for autofocus. I love how you can tweak the autofocus, or that it tells you this is best for tennis and this is great for gymnastics. Having those features and functions there for you, I like that better in the Canon than I do in the high-end Nikons. You just have more abilities to either tweak it to your liking or just to select some of the presets. I'm very happy with these images. And I picked this one just to show you. We have a tighter shot right here. Focus is nice and tight on her eyes. And then the next one, for whatever reason, it's tight and focused on her ear. Now, this is probably human error if I had to guess. Now, I wouldn't call it so much human error as just people are moving. If she switches and moves just an iota forward or backwards, or I sway forward or backwards with that 400-2.8, and especially when I'm in single shot, I'm going to throw the focus off one way or another if I move or if she moves. So it's probably my fault, and that's why I like to every time I'm about to shoot, I like to refocus. That's why I have the focus beep on, so that I can make sure that I'm in there, and each time, beep, 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 boom, take the picture, and good to go. So that's probably on me and not so much on the camera. This is where you throw that 8-15 lens on there. I picked this just because I wanted to show you what you can do in Lightroom here, where you hit the enable lens correction. You can see at the edges as it stretches it, it looks terrible around the edges, but holy Jesus, the fact that you can go from a circular photo like this laying on the course to then bam, like that, is pretty darn cool. So very happy with the colors, happy with the tones, happy with the focus tracking, especially with a shot like this where we went through 47 pictures of her coming down the track, jumping over hurdles, and it didn't miss very often. You can see all those pictures up on the site, but it tracked very well, especially with a subject coming at you. That is one of the hardest things to track, is a subject coming directly at you. One of the things that I found myself doing, though, is that I can do 14 frames a second. I found myself taking more burst modes, and that's kind of spraying and praying and hoping that I get the right shot, instead of anticipating and just trying to get one shot. Now, you have the ability to shoot 14, and of course you could lower that to 9, 8 frames if you really wanted to in the high mode. Just know for your own shooting ability is that you don't always have to spray and pray. And sure, with sports, that's one of the things you do, is you find it and you go brrr, and you get a couple of shots. But challenge yourself, and I should challenge myself, to take less spray and praying shots and more just boom, anticipate the motion and the action and capture it and move on without relying on the burst mode. But the burst mode is absolutely incredible. Then having the subjects running down to do the long jump and then capturing them in the air like this. What lens was I using? I was using the 400-2.8 again. I used the 400-2.8 a lot and the 70-200 to try and tell the story. But this is extremely sharp. The colors are great. Even it looks like there's backlight. It looks like the light is more around the back because this is shadow area, but this looks tremendous. The focus is tack sharp with the continuous focus as she's jumping. The colors are great, the tones are great, and this print looks fantastic as well. And this, getting somebody tracking down the track before they run and jump is awesome. This is one of those single shots. I didn't have to spray and pray for this, but I love you can see again how narrow and shallow the depth of field is right here. It's tremendous. And boom, getting her landing in the sand and then moving to a wider shot, because like I always say, photo stories. Photo stories is where it's at. Get those wides, get those mediums, get those actions, and get those details, and this camera's allowing me to do all of that. I wish I could switch out of single servo or a single focus to the servo quicker. Now, I know I could get into the back button focus where it overrides the shutter. I just wish I could switch from one to the other much quicker. It's a little harder to do with the Canons and the Nikons because the button is up top here instead of by your thumb, which it is on the Nikons. It's a little thing. It's not a deal breaker. It's just something that I felt like I wanted to talk about. And even picking this camera up, this was the first time I shot this camera. I said this earlier, it felt like it was at home. So here's one of the detailed shots. I knew they were going to jump over the hurdles. I wanted to focus in on the Princeton right there and then get them jumping in the background. It's a good plate shot to use. Then the hands across the line, this works out very well. Nice details. I could always bump up the aperture and try to get more people in focus. Like this shot, what I was going for with these guys running was I wanted to get the entire field running up. When I say field, I mean each one of these runners. And these guys are both running to the finish line, which is right here, and you can see the energy. This was done with the 70 to 200 at 3.2, and this is tight focus. And I tracked these guys almost all the way, and these guys are going head for head or head to head. The colors look tremendous. Let's show you where this one started. That's where it started. Not bad, just needed a little bit of contrast to pump that up, and basically you're good to go. This is an awesome shot. It made for an awesome print as well. For shots like this, I locked in on the bar right here, pre-focused, because it would be hard to track them and then come up and compose. So this is where you use old school methods of locking your focus in on the bar and then getting them as they go over. Same thing. And then trying a different angle, it almost, I mean, the guy is levitating there. He did make it over the bar because I did a sequence of shots that you can see, but this is really good. Shot like this, I know we're talking about the camera, get the focus, move the focus points over to the guy on the right so that I can blow out the people in the background who are technically losers in this race because they're not going to win. This guy on the right's the winner, but you can see everybody's trying to win, and this guy is crossing the line right there. Give you the wider shot. I can show you. This is with this is without lens correction with the 11 to 24, and this is with lens correction. You could download this raw file, see if the dynamic range works for you. Play around with the files. That's why I give them to you. Just another cool wide shot. One more wide shot. Of course, didn't know that he was going to fall that way. If I knew he was going to fall that way, I would have shot it horizontal. All right, so those photos I am very happy with. Happy with the raw files that came out of the camera. They are punchy, they are sharp, they are mostly in focus most of the time, which is a good thing. And don't forget, you can download those raw files and play with them yourself. But now, let's talk about the video features. That is what's going to separate this camera from any of the Nikons. If you already have Canon cameras, of course you're going to step up to this level, and if it gives you quality video, well, you're certainly going to use it. The 4K at 60 frames a second looks tremendous, and when you're using the Movie Servo AF, it works so well. We were able to track a subject going like 60 yards down the back stretch, coming at us, and the camera followed the entire way. Also, when we shot a pack of the runners coming up, that's a little more difficult of a situation for the camera to focus on, but it did a great job and followed them almost the entire way until somebody walks across the frame, and then it jumped to focus on them. The footage is great. The Canons blow the Nikons out of the water when it comes to quality of video. The bit rate and the data that they give you is far superior than what you're going to get on the Nikon. Now, we tried the 1080 at 120 frames a second, and we weren't aware that it literally bakes in the slow motion file and converts it down to a 30 frame a second slow motion file. It does that very similar to what some other cameras do, like the Sony RX100 Mark IV. When you shoot 960 frames a second, it automatically bakes that file down. We didn't actually know that was going to happen. It does a tremendous job, and I also want to remind you that it will not do 4K out through the HDMI. It only does 1080, but part of this camera and what makes it a winning camera when it comes to if you want to shoot video, focus. The dual pixel AF. The fact that you can touch where you want it to focus and have it move. Say there's a subject on the ground, or then we want to go ahead and have it focus on somebody else. You just touch it and it moves. And the final thing that I want to say before we wrap this up is a lot of people are going to want to know, do you go with the Nikon top of the line or do you go with the Canon top of the line? You just have to ask yourself the questions. Do you already have Canon gear? If you already have Canon glass and other Canon cameras, you're going to go with Canon. If you're just starting out fresh right now and you think that you're going to be incorporating video a lot into what you're doing, you kind of have to lean to the Canon for something along those lines, and I'll leave it at that. We have other real-world reviews of the Nikon D5, which if you want to check that out, you can click up here right now to check that out and see for yourself, but I'm going to leave it at that. I was really pleased with using this camera, especially knowing that it was the first time I ever went out and shot with it. I think it felt like home. It felt great in the hands. It was easy to use, even from somebody like me who comes from the Nikon world of shooting, to pick up the Canon, take it out for the first time, and get fantastic results. I could use this any day of the week. If I had this camera and this was one that I could take out to shoot, all day. I'll go shoot it anytime. Very happy with everything I got out of it, from the stills to the video, and overall, the camera worked very, very well. So I'm going to leave it at that, and that is another real-world review, this time of the Canon 1DX Mark II. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya. If you'd like to learn how to capture images like the ones that you just saw, go and check out the Froknows Photo Guide to Getting Out of Auto, which is going to run you through all of the fundamentals and basics of photography and help you get to a place where you can capture images just like I captured out at the track and field event. Go to FroKnowsPhoto.com/guide to check out that guide and pick one up.